Hey, everybody, welcome back. CGC is reporting earnings tonight, and I want to talk a little bit about the marijuana industry real quickly. I think, by the way, CGC is going to miss earnings just like ACB missed earnings. I have some puts from the 46.19 level. We'll have to see how that works out. But I want to talk a little bit about marijuana and the marijuana industry in Canada. I found this report in the Vancouver Sun just the other day. The cost of substance abuse in Canada tops 38 billion with booze and tobacco on top. And it's basically saying that there are a staggering 67,515 deaths in 2014 that were attributed, I think this article was a little bit later, were attributed to substance abuse. And I've gotten to very heated arguments on in the cannabis section on StockTwits, and I kind of want to tell you why I've gotten to those arguments. And the best way to do that is basically just to share my own personal experiences with you. Now, when I was very young, my very first experience with drugs was my father's brother getting a phone call one night to go and identify my father's brother at the morgue with my father, and I went with my father to do that. I didn't actually identify the body, but I did go with my father, and his brother had died of a drug overdose. And I can remember his brother telling me very specifically, stay away from drugs. I started out with alcohol. I moved into marijuana. Eventually, he got into heroin, got a dirty needle, got HIV, and then killed himself because he didn't want to die of HIV, just decided he was going to end his life in an overdose. So at a very early age, 14, 13 years old, that was my very first experiences with drugs. Now, my very shortly after that, maybe a year or two after that, I found out that both of my aunts, who my mother's sister, smoked marijuana regularly. And I'd go and hang out at their house, have sleepovers with my cousins, and I would be able to steal marijuana from them very easily because it was right in the house, and you're a kid, that's what you do. And my cousins and I would steal marijuana, and we didn't actually even have to steal the marijuana. They would actually give it to us, and they thought it was cool, and it was so cool being 15 years old and having aunts and cousins that were getting marijuana very easily, and we could just easily get it, and we would try it. And sure, being an impressionable, wanting to stay cool, of course I tried it. In spite of my uncle dying, I wanted to give it a try. Well, 3 years later of marijuana abuse, my grades in school dropped down. I started having aggression problems. I started, really not applying myself, and I started hanging out with the wrong people. And sure enough, that led, doing drugs. That led to doing drugs regularly. And I can remember there was a big difference between how smart I was when I was 13 and how smart I thought I was when I was 18. Now, one of the offshoots, I don't want to get this forever, but doing marijuana all the time didn't affect my health so much, but it affected my mind. And particularly, it affected my psychological state as a teenager as a way of coping with regular teenage problems. And because it was so easy for me to get marijuana, I just had to walk over to my aunt's place and she would give me as much as I wanted. I didn't even need a job. It was really easy for me to get it. And so I've developed personality problems. I started becoming very paranoid. And like all teenagers, I got a few pimples. And, I consider myself to be a really good looking young man at that time. And, I used to get all the girls swooning over me. But getting a couple of pimples and smoking marijuana, I started to feel it was my food that was causing that problem. I started developing paranoias about nutrition. And that had life lifelong effects. I want to tell you, to this day, I still have serious digestive problems because I got very paranoid about eating, you know, all these different foods that I thought were causing pimples. It was really traumatic on me, which led to marijuana abuse. Now, fortunately for me, um, I was also an athlete. Thank God I was an athlete because, being making the high school football team saved my life. I'm 100% convinced of that because when I got involved in high school sports, and the camaraderie of all of that, and being part of a team and not wanting to let my teammates down, um, that saved my life. And I stopped doing marijuana probably around the age of 18. So I smoked from 13 to 18, almost 5 years, because I wanted to be a football player and I wanted to be a professional athlete. And so I'm very grateful for that. However, many of my other family members and friends did not make it. And as a matter of fact, I want to tell you exactly the tragedy of it. Those same aunts that gave me that marijuana so freely, one of them died with extremely aggressive lung cancer, and she was only 40 years old. She left behind, a 13-year-old daughter, and she left behind two sisters. The other aunt that smoked marijuana, she to this day has massive dementia. She's basically a vegetable. You can't even talk to her right now. She's so far gone, and she's still smoking legal marijuana, believe it or not, to this day. My brother, unfortunately, developed several personality problems, and he didn't have sports to save him. To this day, he cannot hold a job longer than a year. He struggles with family issues all the time. He struggles with anger issues. He still smokes marijuana to this day on a daily basis. Okay? A friend of mine, a very close friend of mine, went out stoned out of his mind. He was a courier, and he killed a person in a car accident, a mother of three. And she was young. She was in her early to late 30s. He killed her, right, because of marijuana abuse, right? And he openly admits it was because he was stoned out of his mind. I've just seen it destroy so many lives. And, if you're a young person and you think this is an innocent drug, for a lot of people it will be an innocent drug. For probably 7 out of 10 people it will be an innocent drug. You'll use it maybe on the weekend, just like a lot of people use alcohol on the weekend. But for those 3 out of 10 that have a DNA that is predispositioned to addiction, legalizing this drug is going to triple this death rate. I'm almost certain of that. Maybe double it. Okay? That's 120,000 people that are going to die because of abuse of a substance. And the thing that scares me the most and why I'm so against this drug is because I know in my own personal experiences, which were very different than many of my other friends that didn't go down the same path as me and didn't have those problems for that 5-year period, many of the reason it was so easy for me is because it was right next door at my aunt's house. I could easily get it. How many children are going to be able to go into their parents' bedroom and steal marijuana from their parents? Going to happen. It's going to happen a lot. Just like every child that stole cigarettes, now it's going to be really easy for so many children at those young, impressionable ages. If I would have tried marijuana probably when I was 18 or 19 and I didn't have easy access to it, I wouldn't have destroyed those 5 years of my life. I wouldn't have the health problems that I have right now. I would have got better grades. I'm not blaming the marijuana. I was the one that made those decisions, right? But it would have been so much easier and it would have been so much better if I didn't have that access to readily available marijuana. Okay, so this rant has gone on for 10 minutes. I want you to understand why I hate this industry and why I hope all of these companies, go to zero. And I hope this is just some experiment that we try, but at the end of the day, it's a government grab for money at the expense of hundreds of thousands of lives. And if you think anything different, you're a fool. You might be one of those lucky people that don't have a predisposition to addictions, and good for you. You should be able to use your marijuana legally without going to jail for it. But at what cost? Really? Seriously? At what cost? At the cost of hundreds of thousands of people that don't have that strength. And you can bet the damn government is not going to be putting out enough education to make this happen responsibly. That's why I hate marijuana. If you think it's an innocent drug, you know what? You're entitled to your opinion. But I've had real world experience. To this day, I suffer because of something that I was able to get easily at a young age. There's my rant. I'm old. I'm allowed to do it. If you didn't listen, whatever. If you listened, hopefully you'll learn a thing or two. If not, God bless. Smoke away. But just remember, I told you this at one point in your life, because I certainly can remember being 13 years old and my uncle telling me, stay away from drugs. I didn't listen. I wish I did. By the way, one other point. I have 2 regrets in my life. That's it. Only 2. That's it. 2 regrets. I've had a phenomenal life. Great friends, great relationships, been able to make great money, had wonderful experiences in my life. But I have 2 regrets. That's it. My one regret is doing drugs, starting drugs. My second regret is not brushing my teeth enough twice a day. Other than that, I have a phenomenal, happy life, and I'm very happy with every other aspect of my life. Thank you. Bye for now.